Hi, my name is Maija and I'm a trained opera singer and now also a CVT teacher, an authorized one. That's important. And I have for 20 years been singing classical music and worked as a professional opera singer. And now I'm mainly a teacher. I lacked pedagogical tools because I used to be a singer, so I didn't think that way. I first signed up for a 5-day course at the CVI to check out the CVT technique, and I liked it so much that I signed up for the 3-year pedagogical course, and now I'm an authorized CVT teacher. I educated the whole process up to a master grade in opera singing, and every time I tried to do some of the funky stuff like rock or pop, then it hurt. So I thought, okay, my voice is not trained for that anymore, so I just keep on going with the classical. Then for me it was unsatisfying with the classical because for me it's not going anywhere, or it is, but it's kind of a conserved tradition. And I always longed to be able to sing more rhythmical stuff. And now I feel I can sing this way without it hurting at all. And I can also teach other ones to sing that way. And I can also use the CVT tools in classical. So now it's enough school, I think. Classical singers have to train for many years, for very many reasons. You have to know languages, you have to know the music history, different music styles covering 400 years of different styles. So there's an advanced education, but it's not very advanced finding the sound in classical music. Somebody trains for a long time, but that's because it's not concrete. I think that anyone could make the sound quite quickly using the 3 steps for finding the classical sound. So, normally I would sing like this. And this is the way I've been trained for many years. And it takes a lot of training to become an opera singer, but anyone can actually learn to make the sound at least. And in 3 steps, I believe so. So we'll check it out. So first you have to find the mode called neutral. And I normally do that through the speaking voice. So if you can try not on a very high volume, speaking up here like I do now, like you didn't get a brain. Everything, you're like open, the jaw is loose, and it's like, yeah, everything is hollow and nice. And then if I was not a classical singer, then a trained one, then maybe it would sound like because falsetto is not loud, it's very quiet, and it's quiet even though you sing it loudly, and I'll tell you how. So this is always the underlying mode, this volume 1 to 2 on a scale to 10. So first, step 1, finding the mode, neutral. Step 2, add volume by using twang. So I keep the volume, don't push the volume, sing just the way you did, but twang by making your tongue broader, pulling it backwards and a bit upwards, but make sure the whole tongue doesn't pull backwards, so you get unwanted tension in the tongue. So the tip of the tongue should touch the lower front teeth or the flesh underneath, depending on the vowel. But just make sure, don't push it there. It should just gently touch something in front there. And the rest of the tongue pulls back because the tongue is an advanced muscle. It can do anything. So just do that. So step 1, without pushing the volume, just using twang. Already I got so much more sound, right? But it's still, I'll try to sing it now. In my ears, I think, I want it a bit fuller. What do I lack? Well, I will add the dark sound color. Step 3, I will lower my larynx, lift my soft palate. How do you do that? Well, just think that you're yawning, like you're speaking like this. So now we try. Step 1, neutral, quiet. Step 2, add twang. Step 3, add the yawn. And there, you should be able to at least make the sound. Good luck. So in classical music, we use the terminology head voice, chest voice, mixed voice, and falsetto. If you get it straight away, you're lucky. If you don't get it, it can be hard to understand all the nuances because it's not very concrete. What is a voice in the head? What is a voice in the chest? You know, what is a mixed voice? What is it? The way I was taught was, and it worked well on me in classical, it was using my ears. Because I was imitating the teacher. And I also have a rich fantasy life, so I could imagine stuff like, imagine you're just falling off a cliff or you're just swallowing a big balloon, you know. I thought, yeah, and this is how I learned to sing, which is crazy, but that's how I learned to sing. Who knows how you swallow a balloon or, you know, fall off a cliff? I didn't have any tools, but that's me. We have different learning types, which is very important, and CVT uses them a lot. You have the auditive type, using your ears to learn. You have the imaginative type, which is a lot used by special classical singing teachers. Imagine that, you know, you're falling over a bunch of flowers, you know, and for some people will be like, yeah, I understand it. And for the logical type who needs to understand it theoretically to learn, it will be like, but there are no flowers here. I'm not falling, I don't get it. And then you have the kinesthetic type, which is like, oh, it feels like, now it feels like, and I also had a lot of teachers doing that. And for me it works because I feel stuff all the time. But for the person who is not kinesthetic, it will be like, I don't feel anything, but maybe the person can see it in the mirror because it's a more visual learning type. So knowing all these different approaches to the singing technique is a very big part of a CVT teacher. So you should be able to teach all the learning types with very concrete tools. So for me, that is the biggest difference between the traditional teaching in singing and the CVT teaching. It's concrete. If I went to another CVT teacher, it would say basically exactly the same, use the same terminology, and it would go quicker changing teachers, because that's important too. There's no difference. CVT is not any less worth than the classical. I'm glad I come from both worlds, but CVT has, you know, helped me with a lot of the things I used 20 years to understand from the classical word. I have spent now 3 years decoding with the CVT terminology. Coming from the classical world, we learned that this is the most healthy way to sing. Everyone should start train with classical singing to become a good singer. And I, with my hand on my heart, I can say I have been hearing so many singers that have never trained classical that can do stuff I'm not able to get close to. And they can sing concerts for, you know, live concerts for a whole year and without taking damage from it. And I also have classical colleagues who get nodules too. You know, it can happen to anyone. The approach that classical singing is the most healthy way of singing, I strongly disagree. So to find a classical sound, we almost always use a lot darker sound color than in most other styles. So if you were singing there's a place for us, I would immediately, as a classical singer, think that you're not trained. I would hear it immediately. Why? Because there's a lot of air, for instance, on your voice. There's a place for us. So I would start with removing the air. We have tools for that. Holding back the air. There's a place for us. Okay, we're getting closer. There's something with the volume here that I also think that, okay, it sounds good, but you don't sound classically trained yet, not well enough. What is it? Volume, okay. Try to add more twang, try to keep a broader tongue, pulling it a bit backwards. CVT has explained this in a more complicated way, but we're doing the shortcut here. Make sure you don't pull your whole tongue backwards. Make the tip of the tongue touch your lower front teeth or the flesh below, depending on the vowel. Just make sure it gently touches something. It will give you more volume. There's a place for us. And now when I would think, yeah, maybe you've been singing musicals or something, but you definitely you haven't gotten a job in the opera yet. So what is it? It sounds nice, but there's something missing, and that is the dark sound color that we want. And it depends from the singer to the singer how high or low you sing, how dark it should be, but definitely to the darker side. So if I add that now, there's a place for us. And I added one thing more, which was the vibrato, which is very important in the classical singing, which is an effect that goes to the advanced level if you don't have it, that you can also learn to have. So these are the sounds you would need to fool any classically trained people to think that you're trained too. I would say my tip to classical singers who want to approach singing through CVT, because for me it was a big turn in the head from hearing that what we have been studying on these good schools for so many years is not necessarily the best way to learn how to sing for everyone. So I would just work on the mindset that it is okay. We have all these Latin names for stuff. That was really bothering me. I'm like, we have Latin names for what do you call it? Like something like curbing, or just say holding back the ear. It just sounds stupid in English. We have proper words for it. We have books about that. So it's like it's simplified, but it's not simple. It's just very concrete. So be open for new terminology and try to understand it. It's really the same that we're working on, but it's kind of divided into so small parts that we haven't even been there in our classical training. But it will be a big benefit for us in the long run. And then I would also not be scared to feel different sensations in the throat when you sing. I was really scared to feel a kind of narrowing when I was going towards the metallic modes, because it feels like you have more open throat, right, when you're singing classical. And feeling a different sensation, I was scared. I thought, this can't be, and you're struggling towards your muscle memory that has trained for classical so long. So don't be afraid. You have a good CVT teacher guiding you. So just be sure that you're in the best hands and try it out. And we also stop immediately if it doesn't sound nice in classical. But if you stop, if you can't, you have to try out new stuff. It will not sound good in the start, but as long as it doesn't hurt and it sounds like shit, you're on your way, So just let yourself sing poorly and try annoying sounds. You have never done anything like it, but it's a pedagogical tool to reach a goal. So don't be afraid of singing ugly, as long as it doesn't hurt. So allow yourself to do that. And you should also not be afraid that it might at some point tickle or feel a bit like, this is not good. It's a sign that you're doing something wrong, but it's a guideline that you have, I haven't learned to sing the metallic mode without coming there quite a lot of times. It's been uncomfortable, and I've learned to stop at the right time with this pain scale from CVT. But when I went to master classes, I learned so much because I stopped immediately. Oh, it hurts. I was like, I can't do it anymore. And the other singers were like, oh, it hurts. Again. And I was like, God, they do it over and over again. Well, I was like, the first time, no, sorry, I have to rest my voice. Don't be so afraid to feel a sensation and that maybe it's a bit rough after trying new stuff. We're not used to that, but that's where the fun starts. So maybe not before you're doing, your Tosca at the opera, but when you have some time, check it out and don't be scared. So that's my best tips. So the approach of CVT of teaching us in so many different ways so they can teach exactly your learning type, also with the theoretical stuff, really opened up. Now I'm a really singing technique nerd, and I always used to say don't talk to me about your personal hygiene or singing technique. I'm glad it works for you, but spare me of the details. That used to be my mantra before, but now let's dig into this, So I found it an open, warm and friendly and curious way of approaching singing technique.